If I wanted to create $1 million right now with SEO, I could do a few months of just going hard, right? Every article, hey, we're taking on clients, let's go. Just really pushy, really in your face, really just go and get tons of clients. But like, what is the cost?
This was Glen Allsopp, the Mr. Beast of SEO. I call him Mr. Beast because it's absolutely insane how much time and effort he's putting into those killer research pieces that he's known for. Glen is notoriously private, so this episode of the Ahrefs Podcast is audio only, and I obviously asked him some questions about that. We also discussed how Glen makes money, and he openly shared a detailed breakdown of his income sources, pun intended.
Yeah, I don't mind. I can be specific. I don't mind talking about how much money he makes as well.
The strategy behind his $40 website audits and what he learned from doing thousands of them.
I found so many weird little edge cases and things I don't typically see. It actually gave us the whole idea to create the detailed SEO extension.
How he comes up with original ideas and how he manages to consume and process such vast amounts of information.
When you see me write about something or share something in the world, I have probably been thinking about that topic for weeks, if not months.
And finally, Glen shared an SEO strategy called iPhone link building, which can only be found in his premium course.
So it was originally solely for the course, and I've shared it in the open, but I've shared not even 5% of what is inside the course.
My name's Tim Solo, and you're listening to Ahrefs Podcast.
Ahrefs Podcast.
It's actually pronounced Ahrefs.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Let's do it again. Ahrefs Podcast.
So obviously the first question that I want to ask you is privacy. I've known you for, well, at least 10 years. And I don't think you've ever did anything public, like a podcast that would have your face, or like go to a conference, or even share like your pictures, while it seems like everyone, 99.9% of people in the industry are public and kind of reaping the benefits of it. So I want to know, like, why? What's your thought process behind that?
Yeah, so for me, it kind of started pretty naturally. So I was in school. So it's in England, when you're 16 at school, you can continue with school for another 2 years before university, or you can go to like a kind of like college in between for a couple of years before you go to university. So I was spending a lot of time on the computer, so I thought, I should probably learn computer programming or something like that. It's an obvious thing. But they didn't do that at school. So I moved to college. I didn't know anyone. And that was around the age, this is like 16, 17 years ago. I was 16 years old. And that was around the age people like Google their names, right? And they're like, what's this Google thing? Was learning about search. Let's see what shows up. Who else has your name and things like that. And So I had started this website, Viperchill, where I talked about SEO and SEO services. And I thought, you know what? If I put my name on here, someone in class is going to Google my name and see all this weird stuff I'm doing that no one understands. And I just didn't really want those kind of conversations to happen. So kind of funny, when I started Viperchill, the name on the website was Dave Cunningham. Just a totally random name, no relation to me in any way. And it's actually funny because Google's Matt Cutts, one day he emailed me and he said, hey, I want to link to this page on your website. Is that okay? And I said, yeah, great. Of course, Matt Cutts talking about you. Why not? And it's still live today. If you go to his blog, he links to, I read this article from Dave at Viperchill. So he talks about me as being someone called Dave. So pretty, so it was a very natural start. And then another thing, I probably don't look it now, but when I was 16 years old, 17 years old, I looked about 12 years old. I looked about 11 years old. So I thought if I put my face on this website, there's no way, I'm working with like airports and things like, regional airports as SEO clients. If I put my face on this website, there is no way these people are going to take me seriously. They're working with a kid, they're not going to give me a chance to be their customer. So it started pretty natural and just wanting to kind of, not be the weird guy in school, and also just, have a bit more chance to work with clients. I think these days I kind of, so there's no denying I'm an introvert, like the way my brain works. I don't enjoy, like the idea of going to speak in an event or something like that just isn't interesting to me. I think it will be good for me as a business. I think it will be good for what I have going on. But at the same time, I spent a few years frustrated at it. Like, why am I like this? Why would I not just enjoy it? But I think I've got to the point now where I just really appreciate it. Like for what I lack in wanting to be social and speak at events and go to conferences, and I have actually been to some. I think I make up for in, the way my brain works. Like, it's very creative. It doesn't turn off. I get very hyper focused on things, and it's just it's just something that I've learned to live with. And it started pretty innocently, and now I kind of enjoy it. There's so many people who want to be famous and known and want to be all over YouTube and Instagram, and for me, that's just not. I just have no interest in it, so I try to focus on other things.
You said something that I consider kind of counterintuitive, because you said you had an appearance of a fairly young man, and at the same time you were working with like airports and the like.
Yeah.
So isn't it an impediment when like big corporations don't know who you are? Or when you started working with someone, you did like calls with them and you were like FaceTiming or whatever?
Yeah, so to be honest, I don't actually know. So I've been really lucky that, I've worked, I've traveled around the world, and I've never really been that public about myself. And I've still got to work with like really impressive companies and brands that I'd love to work with, billion-dollar companies, SaaS companies. And none of them have actually, like, I haven't done video calls with them. They haven't seen me on YouTube and Instagram and things like that. So I know I haven't needed to do it. I know I haven't needed to be public and out there, but whether it stopped me from getting clients, I don't know, because those people would have never gotten in touch. So I have no idea.
Can we expect a big reveal sometime? Because I remember back in the day, there was another guy who was private, Block Tyrant.
Yeah.
And then I think you guys were friends or something, or you knew each other, and you did a big reveal for him on Viper Chill, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was correct. Yeah.
So then, we saw his face, we saw his name, and I also like communicated with that guy for a while. Pretty knowledgeable person. So do you think there would ever be a big reveal of Glen, or you would prefer to keep things this way?
Yeah, look, it's to be honest, I don't even like I said, a few years ago, this was something I would think about, like, why. Again, I have met a lot of people from Twitter. I've been to a lot of meetups. I've been to events and things like that. For me, it's not really a big deal. It's just more of I just have no interest in it. It's not, I don't know. It's just something I got asked today on Twitter, do you want to speak at this event? And it's always super flattering. Like, wow, people think of you in that way, but it's just, I can't, there's nothing I would rather do less than go on stage and go and talk to people. So very unlikely. But also, I just don't. I don't know. I almost feel like being anonymous is not that I am anonymous, but I think it's almost growing. How many people on Twitter these days with like cartoon profile pictures and avatars, and you've never seen that? Some of the people I follow, niche site lady, travel niche bro. Like, I have no idea what they look like, and to be honest, I don't care. I just care about what they share. That's what I'm interested in. So I kind of hope people feel the same way about me with that as well.
Well, if you change your mind until the end of October, we're hosting a conference in Singapore, Ahrefs Evolve. you are welcome on stage. I can give my speaking slot to you easily. So
that would be a good time to do it, right?
Okay. I'm sure like one of the questions that everyone is interested is, how does Glen Allsopp make money?
Yeah, good question. So overwhelmingly, without a doubt, over the last, like I said, 16, 17 years has been working with clients. So that's always been the biggest revenue source. Not every year. There are different things. I had a WordPress plugin. I was involved in it's kind of a long story, but a long story to say, I was once given $3 million to go and buy websites and get a percentage of those. Maybe we can talk about that at some point.
Wow.
But so it really depends on the year. It really depends on the year and of my life. But generally, for the most part, it has always been SEO clients has been the big thing. Another thing that has been big for me, and I didn't expect it to do so well, was I have a course. I won't name drop it. If we want to talk about it, that's fine.
No, we'll talk about it. So SEO Blueprint, I will name drop it for you.
Yeah, so I have a course, and that's I won't give exact numbers, but that people can see how many members are in our Facebook group and have an idea of how many people have, and that did way better than I ever expected. So that's the thing with an SEO course, is I always want to make more money doing something that isn't a course than is a course. I don't want to be a course guy and have that be my only thing, but that's done really way better than I expected. And yeah, just so many random things. Like last year I sold quite a few domains for like 5 figures each, just total random things. Or I had a WordPress plugin for a long time, which made a few $100,000. Lots of little affiliate projects and just lots of little things going on. So primarily client work. Course stuff has done really well. Also lots of affiliate projects. And yeah, I've built and sold quite a few websites as well.
So if we draw a pie chart in percentages, what percentage is client work versus your course and versus like any other those smaller things like affiliate websites and such?
Yeah, so it really, really depends on the year, like I said, because some years I'll just really, really go in all on client work and reach out to people and get clients and just really focused on that and our processes. Other years, like for example, when we first launched the course, I didn't do any client work for about 4 months. I was just, we didn't take on any new clients. I just really wanted to go all in on that. So, I would say on a normal year, it's at least 60-70% that is client work.
Whoa.
Working with,
Whoa. I thought your course was pretty big, but looks like how many clients do you typically have at the same time?
So the course was the first year that it went out, because I focused on that more than client work, then it was a bigger percentage. But these days, we haven't even launched the course this year, I don't think. What are we in? No, we haven't even opened the doors.
It's closed right now.
Yeah, so we're in May already. So yeah, and it hasn't been open since October of last year. So it can't really, for the most part, it doesn't get much chance to catch up. So maybe a big revelation is that I actually stopped working with clients about two or 3 months ago. I haven't worked with a client. I think the last client I worked with is end of January, start of February. So at the moment, I'm not actively. So there's still people, that have been clients for a long time that I'm not charging, or, we might get in touch and I might chat with them. But actually, I'm pretty much all in on I should probably explain. So the way my brain works is that I find it very hard to do lots and lots of things going on at the same time. So if we're doing a course launch, I really, really want to be all in on the course, and I don't want to give 50% of my focus to the course, 50% to clients. And then another thing about me is that I'm absolutely, and hopefully this comes across in my websites, is that I'm really a perfectionist. So it's very hard for me to take on a client, especially if it's someone I know and I have a good relationship with. I really want to be involved in that myself. I want to go find the issues, be creative, set up their link building strategy, whatever it is. I really want to be involved in that, and it's very hard for me to step out of that. And when I'm doing that, I don't do anything else. I don't focus on our side projects. I don't do any course stuff. So my brain is that kind of way. So the reason I'm not doing client work at the moment, and we're still getting inquiries every single week. Can you work with us? Can I pay you for this? We've got this problem. Can you help us? Every single week without fail. And that's one of the nice things about writing about SEO is people, you get a lot of people coming to you directly. I'm so focused now on another project that I just don't want that to get in the way, basically.
What is the project, or is it a secret for now?
Well, so the main thing right now for me is SEO Blueprint. So we haven't, obviously a ton of stuff is going on in the world of SEO. We haven't opened the doors for 9 months. So for the last 3-4 months, I've been really, really focused on the next version of that. So version 3 is coming out this month, and that's just, I don't want to be distracted by anything else. And then, so another website of mine, which we might talk about is gaps.com, GAPS. Don't go there right now if you're listening. I don't know when this podcast is going out, but the email list that's on there, I won't use it. It still has mentions of details because I was testing things from the theme and things like that. But this has probably been the first time in my life where I've really sat back and let someone else take over and take control of a project and not being a perfectionist on it. And someone else has been working on that a lot. And then once Blueprint is kind of finished and I've finished all the updates, I'm going to be focusing on that quite a bit.
So basically right now you're focused on your course, SEO Blueprint.
Yeah, that's
then
correct.
you plan to switch your attention to gaps, and then potentially you can come back to client work.
So yeah, I'm not sure. So the nice thing, I've been really, really fortunate in the money and the success that I've had on the internet that I kind of get to pick and choose. So the nice thing about client work is I can say this year we're going to work with clients or not. Or at the start of January, I could say to the team, "Hey, we're not going to work with clients now. We're going to go focus on something else." And that's kind of a luxury that we have at the moment. So I like to think that if I ever wanted to go back to client stuff, I could do it no problem. But I don't know if these other things take off. Like I'm have a pretty big goal with what I'm going to be doing with Gap. So if that takes off, then who knows? It's always something I want to have skin in the game. I'm always going to be doing little side projects and little video audits and things like that. I'm always going to be involved in it. It's not so much that I'm just going to be focused on gaps. It's more about I'm just going to be producing content. So whether that's on detailed and gaps, I just really want to keep putting content out there and see if I can see what happens when I focus on that for a while.
It's interesting how you first said how many different things and projects you had, the course, the client work, detailed gaps, affiliate websites, selling domains. And then you said that you like to focus on one thing at a time.
Just keep in mind, I've been working for myself since I was like 21, so more than a decade now. These are all things. So like I said, I work on a course, but I work on that for 4 months before I share it with the world. That's the only thing I'm doing. And then I'll go and do, we work on the course, we support members, of course, for, all the feedback, and I'll have people in place to answer emails and customer questions and things like that. But then I'll put my attention back on something else. So I do lots of things, but generally only one thing at a time.
So let's talk about the people in place element, whatever you can share, because you are not working alone, obviously, and you often say we in your articles, in your reports. It's not just Glenn doing all the work. How do you manage your team with all that kind of context and project switching? Because you said you're wrapping up your client work, you're going to focus on the course, then you launch the course. Yeah, you'll probably need some people to leave to support whatever needs to get done day to day, and you're going to switch to another project, Gaps. How does it work in terms of manpower?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's funny, when I started, I set up ViperChill. I was 16 years old, and I had it, I had a couple of roommates, my mom and dad, and I had this dream in my head that I was gonna have these big fancy offices and a huge team, and we just have the coolest office ever and like hundreds of staff, and we're working with all these companies. And as soon as I grew up a bit, that just became like the complete opposite of what I wanted to do. In fact, it couldn't be any more opposite. For me, I really love the idea. Small teams can move quickly. A small team of really smart people. So there's fewer than 10 of us. I'm almost in the position where I'm just so hesitant to, potentially bring on someone else or bring someone else into the fold. I just really want to. I think Ahrefs did something similar. Obviously, you guys have a lot more people, but and ConvertKit as well. It's like how much can we get out of this team? How efficient can we be in our processes? And for what we're doing, I'm very, very similar. So yeah, there isn't many of us, and then it kind of ebbs and flows based on what I'm doing. So for about 7-8 months last year, I had someone programming with us, like a contractor, but basically full time, working, all day, every day, every single month for like eight months, did all the work we needed. And then we don't really need that help for, we build a lot of custom tools for SEO research and things like that. So we didn't need that help anymore. So yeah, it really ebbs and flows, but I have no ego about trying to say we have this huge team with dozens of people. In fact, if there was just like 2 of us, I would be fine with that as well. No,
it is definitely not about the number of people. Like you said, here at Ahrefs, we are the same. We're trying to do more with less people and just have like better talent. I'm just wondering how people kind of endure going from one area to another, because working on a course and working with clients, are kind of different things.
Yeah, so for some people it wouldn't change too much. So for example, we have someone who is in our Facebook group every day. They answer all of our emails for customers. You know, if someone has login issues or someone wants to know, hey, can I share this in the group? Is it too spammy? You know, there'll be someone that deals with it, and that's ongoing. So that whether if I change my focus, that doesn't really change. And then there's I don't know. I guess the people I work with, and I'm lucky about this. They're happy to be as dynamic as I am. So I say, hey, we're going to work on this thing for a while, and they, all right, let's do it. Let's go. We've got to research this. The people I work with are very much like me. Like they love to do research. They're very creative. They like writing, or they want to get better at writing and putting content out there in the world and things like that. So it's, for example, you're auditing a client website. By the way, there's a big thing on the internet where clients, if you're doing an audit for a client, they don't want a 100-page report. They just want, step-by-step action points. My experience, the clients that I attract, they don't want a 100-page report. They want a 200-page report of every little detail you think that is wrong and what they want to change. So the people who can learn SEO and do those kind of audits also write a lot and research a lot, and they can apply that writing to other projects as well. So I don't know, the way we think about things and the processes that everyone can kind of adapt to what we have going on.
How did you find these people?
It's been so long now. I think Upwork has been one of the best places for me. I still find people on Upwork. I posted a job there like last week. So yeah, I would say Upwork has been the most common thing. And then one guy I met in person, he was working at a restaurant, and I would go to this restaurant a lot, and I would always talk about he would always ask me, I thought he's just being friendly, right? Like, how's business? And we'd chat about business, keep going to the same restaurant. And then, he ended up working with me for, 5-6 years. It's kind of random, but yeah.
I almost want to ask you what's the name of the restaurant. Maybe I can go hire someone there as well.
Yeah, actually, it's still there, but it has a new name and a new owners now.
Okay, to wrap up the topic of how you make money, what about investments? Like, do you have any startup investments or angel investments or those kinds of things?
Nothing major. That's like, I was one of the first guys in Uber or something like that. So I got a few. Sometimes when I work on projects, I get part of that project. So for example, I was one that I can be open about was I got to work with, I think it was 2022 now, I got to work with Clay Collins for quite a while. He's the guy who founded Lead Pages and Drip, and we worked together for about a year on one of his startups. They raised a few $1 million from like Coinbase and a few other companies. And when I came on board with that, I got a small percentage of the company. So nothing. There's a few little random things like that, but it's not something I rely on, and most things are not something that I could cash out straight away. They have waiting periods, and wait till the money is paid back that we paid in the business and things like that. So yeah, it's really nothing. It's really nothing that I focus on or a big part of what I do now.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever saw you mention anything like that. And when I was reading Detailed, detailed.com,
I
noticed
that typo.
I've noticed that you promote the course quite heavily. So you mentioned that, I reserved some information for the course. We have a lesson about it. And at the bottom of the pages, you have like a pretty specific pitch for the course, but you don't advertise your consulting services all that much. You might mention here and there, like when I was doing consulting, blah, 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 or like, that person was my client, something like that. But you don't kind of actively push people kind of towards the consulting funnel, so to say. And I don't think I even saw like a dedicated agency website, like Glen Allsopp agency, blah, blah, blah. So it's not like even I can go and see what kind of services you offer, what kind of team do you have, what kind of clients do you have, kind of all the typical things that agencies would do to land clients. You don't have that.
Yeah. I don't know how to say this without being egotistical, but if we get we get enough inbound inquiries that I never ever have to. I've never sent an email saying we're taking on clients now. I've never written a blog post saying, do you want to hire me? I've never tweeted saying, hey, we're looking for, we have one spot available this month. I've never had to do that. Just very lucky that by the way, when I started writing, I wrote my first 2 years in SEO, I wrote about 300 articles and nobody cared about them. Like nobody read it, nobody shared it, no one. So I've worked very, very hard for a long time to not just talking about SEO, but improve my writing skills and write things that people care about and share and read. And as a byproduct of that, it's just we get a lot of inbound inquiries. There's something about writing about SEO. It doesn't necessarily make you a good SEO, but I think it shows people, hey, this person's watching the space. They know the latest things that Google cares about. They know some people, there's probably a lot of people who got hit by the helpful content update that don't realize no one's recovered from the helpful content update because they're not involved in Twitter circles and reading search engine land and things like that. So, just very lucky that it all happens inbound and it's never something we've had to promote.
But also, I think part of that is that you're not looking to scale your agency. Because if you wanted to grow, more clients, more revenue, more people, then you would need to kind of have a website and push whoever visits your website towards your agency more aggressively.
That's a good point. There's definitely a limit, and I don't want to go past that limit. So I would say a limit for us. So we do different businesses, but our primary business is audits. Once-off audits, and the thing, whether that's working with someone for 1 month or 2 months. And the thing about that business is that I love selling it because it's something I enjoy being involved in. I love finding problems. I love planning people's strategies and seeing things they can improve. But there's also certain things I'd maybe not want to be involved in. Like I don't want to have teams doing outreach for link building and things like that, which would be a more ongoing time-consuming thing. So, but the thing with audits is that there's also a limit how many we could do in a single month because it's so personal. It's not just, as good as the third-party tools are. It's not logging into Ahrefs and printing off a report of, hey, go and change your title tags. It's really, really personal, really clicking around, spending days on mobile devices, finding issues and things like that. So, there's a limit. I would say it's probably 6 or 7. I remember 1 month, I think we did 7 audits, and that was like my hands were hurting by the end of the month, like how much I had been writing for people. So there's definitely a limit, and I don't want to go over that. That's basically it. I don't need to grow big. I like having the freedom to be able to work on other projects and have these random ideas and random goals and side projects as well.
Speaking of funneling your website visitors towards your agency and your kind of consulting and audit services, you have this offer, $40 audits, which in my book is a no-brainer. Have Glen audit your website for $40. So I don't remember. I think you tweeted what were the results when you just announced this. I think there were like hundreds, if not thousands, people in the first day. But tell me more about this, because I still see that you have a landing page for it, and it is still possible to buy this $40 audit. I would imagine after this podcast, quite a few people will probably go and do this. Tell me more about this thing. I won't ask any specific question. I just want to hear anything about that kind of lead magnet and those audits and how it's going for you.
Yeah, I don't mind. I can be specific. I don't mind talking about how much money it makes as well. So that's a funny thing. So the reason these audits came about is that I wanted to, something happened in my offline life and I wanted to support a charity, and I just liked the idea. It was totally random. I wanted to raise money for this charity, and it's not a thing anymore. The people I was supporting were, the charity still exists, but the people that helped me directly are now doing something else. But there was a dog shelter I wanted to raise money for. I just put this random thing on Facebook. Give me $5 and I'll donate. I'll donate that money, and I'll spend 5 minutes going through your website and give you feedback. And then the next day I had to put it up to $10 because it was just got crazy. The next day I put it up to $15. And I remember tweeting this. In the first 4 days of doing it, I looked at 122 websites. It just went, I had never seen anyone doing this. I'd never heard of the idea. It turns out there was quite a few people on Fiverr doing something similar, but it was crazy. So I did, the first few weeks, I did about 500 websites. And then I donated a few $1,000s to this shelter, and a lot of people wanted to donate more, which is really cool. Like, it was $5, but some people would give me $100 or $200 and, go and support them. And that was awesome. So I did it again a few years later, and yeah, so it was either 500 or 1,000 audits. I did 100% for charity, donated all the money, and it was really cool. And what was really fun in that time is because as SEOs, of course, we spend a lot of time on the internet. We find random issues on websites, even if we're not looking for them. It's just hard for us to turn off, right? I found so many weird little edge cases and things I don't typically see, but I could add to our processes. Like, oh, this website does this really weird thing, or I found this really weird issue, this type of page that WordPress is creating, or something like that. Let me go and see if this problem is present on other websites. And it actually gave us the whole idea to create the detailed SEO extension. I never had plans to create an SEO extension until I was doing those audits. So so I did it for about a month, and then 2 years later again, I did it for about a month, and then I opened it up again for the first time in 3-4 years at the end of 2023. And the reason I did that is primarily because I know I'm not going to be focusing on client work this year that much, if anything at all. Like I said, we still get inquiries every single week, but I'm not taking on new projects. And the thing, first of all, I love doing these videos. So I've wrote about this before. I generated 6 figures in revenue from giving $40 website audits. And the thing I love about it, there's a quote where it's the sweetest sound to anyone, I'm paraphrasing here, is their own name, right? Someone shouts Tim, you're turning around no matter where you are. The number one video anyone can watch on YouTube is someone going through their website saying, change this, fix this, what is that? Like, people will watch, I will create a 10-minute video for people, they will watch it 30, 40 times. Like, I can see the view counts, on YouTube, and it's just, they will share it with their team and their family. Like, do you agree with this? Should I change this? So I absolutely love it. I get paid. It's not crazy money, of course, but I get paid to give people feedback on their website and know they're going to watch it and know they're going to take action. So there's definitely part of it I enjoy. I would actually love to talk with you in private about this at one point, because I have this weird feeling in my head. Maybe I'm being paranoid, but I almost think it makes me look bad. Like, because whenever people share it, like you said, it's a no-brainer. Like, why would he be selling this for $40? Like, I don't get it. Is he struggling? Like, is he having problems? I don't know. In my head, I worry people perceive it that way. So yeah, it's also something I've never tweeted about. I don't send email. It's in our like auto, like our sequence for emails, but I never send an email saying, hey, you can come join. And a funny thing happened. This was about 2-3 months ago. Joe Davies from Fat Joe, he ordered a video and then he tweeted about it. And I got, in the first like 12 hours from his tweet, I got 80 people. So like $3,000 or something like that within the first few hours of him tweeting it. So that's me booked out for a couple of weeks. I cannot, I have to take down the page and then wait until I can do it again.
But again, how long does it take you to record one video audit?
Yeah, so a video, it's $40 for 10 minutes. I probably shouldn't say this, but there's not a single video that is 10 minutes. They're always, 12 minutes, or just always a little bit extra. So technically 10 minutes of video, you could do 6 videos an hour. I only ever want to spend 1 hour a day on this. It's kind of like my side project that I enjoy doing. So in 1 hour, I basically happily do 4 videos. That's kind of the limit. Because, I set up a screaming frog crawl. I start processing the last video or whatever it may be. It's not just like 10 minutes. All right, you're done. Goodbye. If I'm still in the middle of talking about something, I'll finish what I was saying.
I'm very interested what would happen after releasing this podcast episode, because I think ordering your audit for $40 is a must-have, and I urge basically every listener to spend those $40. These are like $40 best spent. You provided me actually with a great segue into the last topic before we start diving into detailed, and this is your SEO extension. So you said once you were doing that many audits and looking kind of into the same things over and over and over, and it made you want to create your own SEO extension. So I want to know more about this. What's the deal with it? And full disclosure, we have our own extension, and I think there's quite an overlap between what yours does and what ours does. But yeah, I just want to know why are you doing that project aside from just creating a tool for yourself that makes your own job easier? I think you tweeted recently or shared that your extension has surpassed 250,000 weekly users, which is a lot. So I imagine people are using it actively and is still growing. So yeah, tell me more about this project and where do you want to take it in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so my initial thought was, if I'm going to get acquired by Ahrefs, it's not enough just to have the blog. I really need some tool. I really need something additional. No, yeah, but that's I'm going to push you for that one there, but not yet. But yeah, I had this. So I was recording all these video audits, and I'm happy to talk about this. There was a tool I was using called SEO Meta One Click, and it has way more users. Even today, it has like 500,600,000 users, this SEO extension. Whoa. But so I would be going through people's websites and I'd be clicking on that tool and it would say, this page is indexable or not. But the only thing it was checking was the meta robots tag. It doesn't have any feature which checks X robots. So X robots is pretty rare for people to use in terms of like, a WordPress blog or a forum to be no indexing pages, but it happens, right? So I was doing all these audits and I was saying, well, look, I think this page is indexable, but I'm not 100% sure because it's not checking X robots. So it might not be. Like, I don't know if you have to take action on this page or not. And I felt, look, it's not a huge part of SEO. There's so many other things I could talk about, but still I wanted to be a bit more confident in these audits. So I reached out to the Meta One Click guys. I said, hey, can you add this feature? No response. A couple months later, I said, hey, can I acquire this tool from you? No response. I have tried to find everything. They haven't updated the extension in more than 4 years now. Like you can go to the Chrome Web Store and look at the last updated date, and there's good. If you can find who's behind it, then I don't want to put any pressure on them, but I'd be happy to happy to talk to the team. So I got in touch with them. Had no intentions, but I needed this thing, and there was no extensions. To my knowledge, at the time, there was no extension that had this checking for X robots. So that's what I wanted to do, and then that's what I wanted to add to it. And then in the process, I had the idea, why don't I add all these other features? So you're welcome for this, by the way. If you right click on the extension, you can go to Ahrefs, right? So you're on a website. Yeah, you're on a website. You can right click, open this page in Ahrefs, right? It's just super quick, super easy. I don't have to open Ahrefs manually. I don't have to copy the link. Just saves me time. And then I kept having all these ideas, and as time went on, we've added like people also ask extractions and things like that. So for a few years on Detailed, very openly, I said, look, I've sent thousands of people to SEO Meta One Click. I've created 1,000 videos using their tool. People in the comments in the videos are like, what tool is this? And I've told it, but they don't have the features I need. I don't really have much choice but to build our own. So for 3 years on Detailed, I put a very big, clear message on our extension page. Look, we were inspired by these guys. They didn't have this feature. I want to give them credit for being the inspiration, but I have to, I'm at the point now where I had to create my own thing. And I've never been able to talk with them. And the extension's been incredible. I think we just hit 270,000 weekly users. I think on an average day, there's about 200,000 people use it, at least according to the Chrome Web Store. So it's became so much bigger than I ever thought, and I'm just really really surprised. And it's weird. I'll be scrolling Instagram, and someone's got 10,000 likes on a video talking about the extension. Like, hey, this is the one Chrome extension you need for SEO. And it's incredible. So it's been really good for us. Yeah.
So you have a dedicated developer working on it, kind of not full time, but consistently.
Yeah, and actually, I found that guy on Upwork. So I had someone else created it. Someone created the extension. I think I found them on Upwork, and then a few years ago, they went to work for a crypto startup full time. So they just weren't available for feature requests and things like that. And then I found this other guy on Upwork, and he's incredible. And within like a month of working with him, and he was so amazing. Like, he would have these ideas for ways to order things that he wouldn't just follow instructions. He'd have his own ideas. Hey, maybe we should do it like this. And I love that. And he quickly doubled his prices and got tons of clients on Upwork. And I've sent him to like people on Twitter, like, hey, check out this guy. He's incredible. So I don't always have work for him, but when I do, he's amazing.
For people who are interested who have ideas of projects they can launch but don't have any kind of programming, coding, or engineering experience, what kind of hourly rate do you typically look for when hiring developers for your own projects? And typically when you need to take off a relatively small project off the ground, like an MVP version of a toolbar, how much money that would cost? Just the ballpark.
No, I'm happy to give the exact numbers. So the person I started hiring for the extension was $25 an hour, and now he is $50 an hour. So every hour he works on the extension is $50. That's the rate he sets. He doubled his rates and apologized to me, and I said, dude, if you can get people to pay you, I want to pay people for skills. Like people will pay me $8,000 for an SEO audit or $9,000. We did one at the start of this year. If you can provide value to people, then you charge whatever you want. So don't apologize to me. So yeah, $50 an hour is what we pay this guy. I think he's based in Turkey, so I don't know if that's a good salary for him. But it doesn't really matter. If he has the skills that I want, he should pick his own rate. And then another person we work with is in Mexico, and I've been working with this person for more than 10 years now. He builds all of our SEO research tools. We have a deal where I have no idea what his hourly rate is. I have no idea how much time he spends on projects. It is 100% trust-based. I say, can you make this thing? So we working with an API. Like sometimes we work with the Ahrefs API. Sometimes that's not me, right? I just ask him, hey, here's the details. Here's the API key. Can you go and build this thing? And we basically have an understanding that he will give me a fair price. And because I believe he's giving me a fair price, then I'll keep giving jobs to him. That's basically our agreement. So he picks whatever price he wants, and I don't think he's ever tried to rip me off or anything like that. So it really depends on what we're doing. So if we're doing for research with the Ahrefs API, it might be, and I want to run a query, it might be $150, $200. If we're creating a tool where we're monitoring like thousands of RSS feeds, it might be $5,000 or something like that. So it really just depends on the project.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you for all the details.
Sure.
And now on to detailed. Again, I want to ask a very general question to see where you want to take this, but kind of why does this website exist? And maybe also it would be relevant to share a little bit of backstory from Viper Chill, because as far as I understand right now, Viper Chill redirects to detailed.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, it's probably a broken redirect. I think I just did that one random line in htaccess file and haven't checked all the links. But so Viper Chill was the thing. The website I was kind of known for. It's still my username on Twitter and things like that. And I was running this website. So anyone who's been in internet marketing for a while, if you're listening to this, I was running Viper Chill around the time where we had Shoe Money and John Chow and all these, the famous blogger Jed website as well. From Tim. We had all these kind of copy blogger, pro blogger from Darren Rouse and all these websites. So that was back in the day. And I kind of got to a point. So about 50% of my articles were about SEO and ranking websites. And then about 50% of my articles were about how to get more conversions, how to get more likes on Facebook and things like that. Or one thing I really, really loved about was talking about profitable niche ideas. So I'm involved in this project. I don't have availability or interest to get into something else, but I think this other idea is really cool. And that would be half of my articles. And keep in mind, the way people consume content back then was almost exclusively either via RSS feed or they would go to your homepage, right? If you wanted to see what copy blogger had wrote, it wasn't on Twitter because Twitter wasn't a thing, or it was just, building up. He didn't have a Facebook page. It was you subscribe to his RSS feed or you go to his homepage. So for me, I don't know if this is true. I didn't really get feedback on it, but in my head, I was thinking a lot of people come here, they have a business idea, they just want to promote it with SEO. And a lot of people come here, they don't care about SEO because they don't have a business idea, right? So in my head, I was thinking half of the content that I'm writing for people just has it makes no sense. So people will come back to my homepage. I've been working 2 weeks on this article, and then the thing I've just wrote has no interest to them, either because they don't have a website yet, or because they already have a website and they're not interested in building a new business. So my idea, and this was a slow evolution, was I need to cut that in half. So if I'm going to focus on detailed and focus on SEO and be an SEO brand, let's do detailed. And if I'm going to focus on business ideas and kind of gaps in the market, I refer to it as, I'm going to put those on another website called Gaps. So detailed definitely won out in terms of what I was going to focus on, which one was going to get most of my attention. And yeah, it was just basically a way where I could focus just on SEO, and I don't really talk about business ideas or anything like that on the website.
That's a very good explanation of what happened there. Thank you. So the way I understand it is detailed is basically monetized via your course, and it helps with the consulting inquiries whenever you need them.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have been invited to the show if I hadn't written about SEO and wrote things that are hopefully interesting, right? You wouldn't know who I am. So yeah, writing on detailed has been huge for clients, extension users, people buying the course. It's pretty much, like I said, I'm not on Instagram. I don't really create videos on YouTube or anything like that. Writing there is how I get, is how people know about me. Yeah.
I don't think you have even a single affiliate link there. Is that right? No?
I would be very surprised if it is. Maybe someone could hunt one out, but I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very not typical for a content website to exist and not have a single affiliate link. And that's very cool. I also noticed that you often don't even link to different, services, brands, tools that you're mentioning, because you want to focus kind of on the content rather than, promoting anything specific. You seem to want to promote the ideas over anything else.
Do you mean not linking to other people or not linking to my own stuff?
Not linking to Ahrefs, for example.
I think I said this to you before. Linking to Ahrefs is like linking to Google every time you mention Google, right? Everyone knows it already. It doesn't make sense. So I think I probably have 20, 30 outbound links in every article, but I also don't link to SEMrush, so I'm making it even for you.
Okay. So to be honest, as I was rereading some of your reports, I usually, whenever you tweet report, I bookmark it and I try to save it for later because I know how much information would be there. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of hard to prioritize digging into it, but our interview was a great kind of excuse to devote a few hours of my time to go through that. And to be honest, as I was reading your reports, I got a feeling that Glen is the Mr. Beast of SEO, because you had phrases like, we had to hand pick 10,000 different queries.
Yeah.
You manually reviewed 1,000 websites, or you categorized around 600 individual brands into 16 Goliaths. So there's a ton of just manual work involved here, which reminds me of, Mr. Beast counting to 100,000 or whatnot. It's a crazy amount of effort. What is your mind space in terms of investing so much effort in your content?
There's two. That's a great question, by the way. Thank you for that. So there's two sides of it. The one side is, so for example, we manually handpicked 10,000 key phrases for an affiliate research report. I think the first one was at the start of 2020. Actually, we did them a few years ago. So a few years ago, we had 500, then we had 5,000, and then we ended up with 10,000. And the reason why is because, first of all, that's a pretty good number, right? If you just say I analyzed 500 search results, it doesn't really give you much of a thorough picture. Even 10,000 isn't great, but as long as, that can still cover tens of millions of monthly searches, in Google. So the first reason is because I know I'm going to put in all this work because I can use these terms for a long time to come. So we put in weeks of work in 2023, but I've been using those same terms. And one of the one of the things about those terms is we make sure we didn't put years in them. So they never said best budget microwave 2023, right? I always excluded years so I can continue to use those terms. So that was another big part of it. And another big part of it is just kind of preservation in the sense that if anyone calls you out, or I don't want to have erroneous data, I don't want to have, some like adult or gambling themes in there accidentally. Like I really want it to be bulletproof. So ever get called out like Reddit tried to do with me a couple of months ago, then I have all the data that I can really stand by and be confident in it. Yeah.
This is actually super smart that you invest a lot of effort, but you know that you're going to reuse this data again.
Yeah.
And you can look at it from different angles. That actually explains part of your crazy investment in your content, but still, I don't think anyone in the industry is doing anything close to that. With the amount of kind of manual work that you're investing. And to be honest, I wish more people, not just in SEO, but in general, in digital marketing in general, would take time to do these kinds of experiments, because I always use an example from my blog BloggerJet, where I did a very simple study. I reached out to about 500 bloggers and asked them to share their referral traffic numbers, because I wanted to know how much referral traffic they're getting from their guest articles. They created a very simple study in Excel spreadsheet. It was quite a bit of hustle to reach out to 500 bloggers, and only half of them shared their data with me. But still, it was very interesting, and that article quickly became the most linked page on my blog. And I was talking about this example quite a bit on different podcast interviews and different talks to kind of motivate people that it's not that hard actually to do something of that sort, to study some data, even if you don't have any skills, or even if you don't have access to huge data sources like Ahrefs. But I don't see too many people doing it. And you are kind of completely next level, even though there's a market there's kind of a gap in digital marketing industry for doing even the simple things and getting attention with that. You're taking things to a whole new level with the scale of what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I guess one thing to keep in mind is that it's kind of the only option I have in a sense. So, I'm using air quotes. I know people can't see me, but my competition in SEO, or at least writing about SEO, is you guys, right? You've got, $100 million plus in revenue, which I'm never going to get to with website audits. And you've got, some of the best writers on the planet who are just focused on writing. Or we've got SEMrush, IPO'd and on the stock market and things like that, or all these other tools making millions of dollars. So if I have any chance of standing out, if I have any chance of getting any attention, I kind of have to do things differently. I don't really have much choice. I don't just want to do, and keep in mind, I wrote 300 articles sounding like everyone else, not really adding much to the conversation, not really, and you get so much, it probably takes the same effort as 10, 20 articles that don't have much attention, but you get so much more feedback from them. I've been very lucky. So in the past month, and I promise I don't say this to show off because it doesn't happen to me very often at all. In the last month, Detailed got mentioned on Tech Radar, Financial Times, TechCrunch, Business Insider. They've never talked about me before. The latest research I've been doing, and that only happens because of the work I put into it. I will say, though, that there was one time, actually in the last year, that I put so much work into an article and no one really cared. So there is that article, it was, I analyzed 250,000 search results to see who's dominating content search results. And that just, for the amount of work we put into that, because we had to categorize literally thousands of websites. Is it a niche website? Is it an e-commerce store blog? And we did all of that manually. The feedback that got was just, didn't get that much traffic, didn't get shares like normal. People didn't put it in newsletters like I would normally get. I don't regret it, but it's also, people have to keep in mind there's no guarantee that just because you put a ton of time into something that it's gonna pay off and actually get traction.
But you also don't promote your content much. Basically, from what I've noticed, you do two things essentially. First, you share the content with your audience, whether like on Twitter or newsletter or wherever else you have your audience. And second, you might run a little bit of Twitter ads to it, and that's about it.
So I have the newsletter. We got 40,000 people on our newsletter that we share something with. So that's also pretty, that's a good starting point. I'll always run Facebook ads for a day or two. Nothing crazy, like, $200, $300. Just, I basically want to make sure I reach people who like my page or something like that, right? We have 30,000 followers on Facebook. If I share something on Facebook, like, it will be shown to a couple hundred people. Likes don't really mean much these days, or at least not in my business on SEO. So I'll try and make sure I reach everyone who's liked my page. And beyond that, I generally, I think people actually might be surprised how much traffic DDL gets. We got a few 100,000 people to the website in the last year. But if you look in Ahrefs, we get, not even 1,000 people a month, not even 1,000 people a day from Google, from our ranking. So yeah, very, very lucky and fortunate. And I really appreciate that we get shared in a lot of newsletters. That's always a surprising one, because you can never control it, right? There's a lot of newsletters where they share roundups in the world of SEO and news, and we get featured in a lot of those. But yeah, I'm also at the point where I'm thinking long term. Like, if I wanted to create $1 million right now with SEO, I could do a few months of just going hard, right? Every article, hey, we're taking on clients, let's go. Oh, your website suck because your rankings suck because your website's terrible. I'm going to turn around, just really pushy, really in your face, really just go and get tons of clients. But like, what is the cost? First of all, that's not me, right? That's not how I want to operate. But I also think about the brand over a long term. So I put my articles out there, but I also don't want to be tweeting them every 2 days. Check this out, check this out. I think for the most part, if I've shared something twice, people probably, if they wanted to read it, they would have clicked on it already. And that's probably enough. And maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, like I said, I reach people through the newsletter. That's a much bigger, I get way more clicks from my newsletter than anything else.
So in terms of tweeting the same content again, intuitively, kind of I'm with you. You want to share original stuff all the time. But then again, given how, like, what percentage of your own audience Twitter would show the content to, I think it does make sense to share it again, but not like in the same form. So you have to pick like 3 or 4 different angles from which you want to share, like different snippets from this post, and then share it. But yeah, that's a totally different topic. When I said that you don't promote your content much, I guess where I was going is towards those digital PR services that are getting traction right now, because what they're doing is they're creating a very simple study, some survey, or like some very simple data crunching, even from Ahrefs, like what are the most searched Hollywood celebrities or something like that. And they would write a simple press release, and they would email it to like 10,000 different relevant journalists or something. There are tools where you get where you take the contact information of journalists, and they get links from relevant websites because the results of their studies are being published. And what I'm saying is that you mentioned you had links from TechCrunch or what, but you kind of got them naturally. While what you could do is you could, use services of these PR agencies to craft press releases based on takeaways from your pieces and just blast them to journalists.
Yeah, that's true. There's definitely parts to it. So the thing I sometimes wonder, if I was just writing, right? If I only wrote, let's just say, again, we're coming back to this topic of Ahrefs acquiring Detailed. Let's just and all of my marketing is built in, right? I have Tim doing the marketing for me, and I can just do writing and nothing else. Like I do wonder what would be the result of that. So yeah, it's tough because our time is limited, and there's only we are a purposefully small team, and I don't want to push it too far. You're right. There's definitely more I could do. Mark Rofe, who you probably know on Twitter, I am Rofe. We had some ideas of ways I can do that with some content going forward. We actually talked about this in the last month or two. So there's a few things I've tweeted that ended up being stories in some way that we probably could have gotten a better response by if I had, he's the perfect person to do it. He knows journalists and he has a database. And so it's something I'm very open to, but it's just, you're right. I haven't really done that before, or at least not for detailed. Yeah.
Yeah, because you invest so much time and effort into those pieces of content. You are perfectly comfortable to throw in a couple $100 or $1,000 to promote them on Twitter or Facebook. You might as well do some outreach to relevant journalists.
This is why I need you on my team, Tim.
So the question is, who acquires who? You acquire me or Ahrefs acquires you?
I'll wait for the offer email after this podcast.
So it's good that you mentioned that you were talking to Mark about some ideas of the future content. I wonder, what does your content plan look like? I would imagine that with being the idea guy, I see you as an idea guy, you always have interesting ideas. I would imagine you have a huge backlog of things you want to do or write about or experiment with. I know I do. I have Google documents, Evernote lists, some random notepad notes, some screenshots on my phone, a ton of stuff that I have to continuously prioritize and pick, okay, it's time to do this kind of thing. So how do you approach your, backlog of ideas?
Yeah, so I have a Google sheet just with headlines basically. And then I have a Google Sheet with headlines and then a Google Doc with all the notes that go with the headline. So I think for me, when you see me write about something or share something in the world, unless it's a quarterly report, which I started doing, last year, I have probably been thinking about that topic for weeks, if not months. So the way my brain works, and again, I accept I'm pretty weird, but maybe this is the case for more people, is that I have the headline and then I just kind of forget about it. And as I'm doing other things, browsing the web. I read this thing that would fit perfectly into this article, or I see this case study that would fit great into this article. And by the time I get to share something, I get around to writing it. I've got 20 examples to give, great quotes from other people that fit into the article. It's never the case that, I'm going to write about this thing now. Let me start from zero and go and, fill in, just create it from start to scratch. That's not the case. When I start to write something, I've got pages of notes, quotes, links, screenshots, all ready to go for me just to put into some kind of order. So yeah, I've got about 30 articles, and I call them bangers. So basically, these are articles that I think I could share that people would really care about. Just maybe not as impactful as my 16 companies dominating Google article, but something like who's dominating the discussions and forum sub feature, right? That did well. It picked up a lot of press. That's the one Reddit responded to. I have about 30 articles that I think of that are at that quality, and they're all just kind of waiting for me. I literally have a score next to them. How interested am I personally in writing about this topic? So they're ranked by that score, and whatever's high on the list, I focus on that one next.
Maybe you could sell some of the low ones on the list to us.
No, not gonna happen.
But you
come as a bulk deal.
I would imagine that you have many things on your backlog, and some of them you wouldn't probably get to in the next, let's say, 2 years.
Correct.
So maybe you should sell some of them to us.
I'm not gonna lie. There are times I'm concerned, either someone's going to cover this topic before me and do a good enough job where if I share it, it's not really going to care, or, the chances it's not going to be as interesting a topic anymore. Or that's definitely a concern when I take so long to cover something. But no, they're not for sale.
Too bad. So one thing I noticed from reading your reports, like I said, you would mention that some of the content kind of didn't fit into report, and you reserved that for your course, SEO Blueprint. So I would imagine, as you're doing what you're doing, as you're doing those $40 audits, as you're analyzing the search results, as you're analyzing which websites belong to which brands, you get a lot of ideas for SEO Blueprint. Is that right?
Yeah, nonstop. Pretty much everything. Pretty much everything in there, at least as far as technical SEO goes. Look, so my idea for a course, and I'm not going to try and pitch it here, is that I didn't just want to create another SEO course. I wanted to have original ways of looking at things. So every SEO course should talk about link building, technical SEO, keyword research, just obvious topics. But I didn't just want to be like, oh, go to Google and you start typing in a word and it gives you suggestions like, hey, that's where you get, there's so many people who have said that. Right? I wanted to have unique ways of thinking about things. So for the technical SEO side, what I really love finding, what I really love about these video audits is 1 in 20, maybe 1 in 25 now, because obviously I found a lot of them, is I found weird edge cases, just weird issues that I wouldn't typically find. Like, I don't know, a page is totally blank on, this actually happened to our own website, that's why I can talk about it. Everything looks great on desktop, you look at it on mobile, website is blank. Right. And if you haven't looked at your website on a mobile for a while, then you're missing out. Just something strange like that now I make sure every website I look at, and maybe not on the video audits, but at least as a full-time client or advising other people do, make sure you look at it on mobile. Or make sure you check, for example, I see people, they redirect old domains, or they move content from another website to one other. And then the title tag branding will have detailed on your original content, but the content you've copied over all has Viberchill written on it, right? Even though it's not on Viberchill anymore. Like, it's such a rare thing. It happens 1 in every 500 websites maybe, but it's a 2-second check. You can search in Screaming Frog or the Ahrefs site audit report. Do I have any mentions of this old brand on the website? Like, it's 2-second check, just check it. Could be really valuable if you find it. So yeah, I just find lots of edge cases like that.
You keep mentioning that you don't really want to pitch your course,
Yeah.
but I do want to pitch your course. But the best way to pitch a piece of informational content is share something cool from it. So I would imagine you have like 100% of content in SEO Blueprint. Can you share some killer tips that are right now only exist within the SEO Blueprint?
Yeah. So one problem by talking about it is that there's a good chance it's not going to be open, right? When this podcast, it's only open
Still,
two
people
weeks
can
later,
sign
so-
up for a wait
Yeah.
list or something.
Yeah, that's true. So there's lots of different angles. I think my favorite topic is probably link building. So look, link building is one of those things where, you can buy niche edits, you can write guest posts, you can, find broken links or find people mentioning your business like I do when every time I talk about Ahrefs and I don't link to you guys, hey, shoot them an email and get the link, right? There's so many little, there's kind of a lot of obvious angle, and they're not bad. They're just different. So yeah, funny. The thing I was concerned about when I sharing a course where the idea is that you share a lot of unique things that hopefully haven't been shared everywhere else, is that a lot of your people who buy the course are SEOs and they're going to share these ideas on Twitter. And that's happened for a couple of them, which kind of sucks. But look, I don't own what people can share. So, it's just part of, someone purchased something for me. So you kind of have to accept it. But one topic I really love is iPhone. I refer to it as iPhone link building. And the reason I call it this, because it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how old your website is. It doesn't matter how long you've been around. If you have a photo of the iPhone 16 before anyone else, and you put that on Ahrefs, the whole tech world is going to talk about it, right? You're going to get links from every tech website on the planet. Doesn't matter that Ahrefs has nothing to do with tech and gadgets. You've got the first iPhone link, people are going to talk about it. So I refer to it as iPhone link building. And there are lots of ways that you can generate that same kind of interest without having the iPhone. So for example, a good example in the SEO world, people see Google make changes to their webmaster docs. Whoever noticed that change first tends to get shares and links and, people talking about them. There's a guy who does this really, really well for Tesla. I don't want to say his name because I'm going to Sawyer someone on Twitter. He monitors, I'm 99% sure, he monitors every single page of the Tesla website. He puts some kind of, a good tool I use is visual ping. So every day it will check a page, and if something is changed on that page, it will tell you, hey, there's some new text here, or the graphic has moved, or they've changed the image. He finds things Tesla changed on their website before anyone else. Oh, Tesla changed the pricing. Tesla have changed the yeah, the price of this car or this landing page for the Cybertruck has been updated. He finds it, he goes super viral every time. So one of the things I teach people to do is try to find those kind of stories that happened in your niche before. So like if you were the first person, there was someone who noticed Google removed "Don't be evil," right, from their company documents on their website. The person who noticed that picked up a ton of links. So I literally have 200-300 pages that I track, not every day because they don't change that often, usually weekly or monthly, and I look for changes on those pages. So if something changed that I can be the first to talk about and see before anyone else, I'm going to get links. People are going to talk about me. So that's one idea I have. And yeah, I just give lots of, you can look at a website's terms and conditions. That can get a ton of links. If a service you use, Facebook updates something in their terms of conditions. Oh, we now have full control of your images. You talk about that. The tech world, the marketing world is all going to talk about this change. So that's a big one. And I try and be unique in terms of giving a ton of different sources people can track and monitor and try and be the first four in their industry. And that's how you're going to get links. Another one I haven't done this for a couple of years, so I don't know if the tools still allow it, but I'm pretty sure they do, is that, so a big thing I'm a proponent of is building relationships. So you connect with people in your space, build up. I have the saying that you don't want to ever need backlinks. So you don't want to ever be in a position where you don't have any links to your website and you're like, oh, I have to go and get backlinks. Let me go start build a relationship with someone or something like that. Or I have this new content. Yeah, you don't want to be in this position where you have to get all this, you're waiting to get links and you have no relationships, no connections, or no audience on your newsletter when you've created this amazing article. So I'm a really big proponent of building relationships, getting in people's inboxes, signing up to people's newsletters, seeing how you can help people, and just basically building those up. And then one thing I really like to do is if you do remarketing, so again, this is all like cookie based and so on now. If you have permission to remarket someone because they've accepted cookies or whatever, you can do remarketing on your website or on your YouTube views. And then Google AdSense will tell you all of the other channels that your audience likes to watch. So for example, someone might be watching a video on the detailed YouTube channel. Then I see they go to Ahrefs or they go to Nathan Gotch or someone like that. And if I haven't heard of Nathan before, I can start, oh, my audience seems to like this guy. Maybe that can be how I start a conversation with him. Hey, I noticed my audience watches your channel. Do you want to connect sometime? Like that could be another way you can find people to build relationships with that could also link to you. So yeah, there's just so many little angles like this that I have that I think are just different ways of doing links. And that's always what I'm looking for. Again, there's nothing wrong with guest posting or broken link building or finding unlinked mentions. These are all like good, solid staples. Everyone should be, why not? They work, take advantage of them. But I always just want to find the little bit extra that isn't common. And then that's what I try and do to make the course special.
That is absolutely amazing. I love how did you call it? iPhone link building?
iPhone link building, yeah.
iPhone link building. Yeah, and I like how specific you are with tools and places of where to get this. You're not just saying, oh, whenever like something like a new iPhone comes up and you're the first to cover it, you'll get links. So look for something like that. No, you go a level deeper and you explain, okay, terms of service pages, homepage of like big companies to check like what changed on them. This is
coming soon pages for products, things like that. Yeah.
This is absolutely amazing. And yeah, this is what I got access to your course maybe 4 years ago, one of the first versions of it. I don't remember if we bought it or if I was lucky to get it for free from you. But anyway, this is what I loved about it, because it wasn't the same to like most other courses that talk about kind of known strategies. They explain known strategies. Maybe they would offer some different tool or a different twist to the strategy. But essentially, most of the courses about SEO are talking about the same things, and you are coming up with completely different angles. So yeah, this is what I enjoyed about the course. And if you were adding more and more content, maybe I need to go back and revisit what you have there.
Yeah, so a large part of version 3, which I've been working on now, a large part of it is refreshing stuff. So the thing about an SEO course is that Google keep changing how Google looks, right? So if I create a video and a tactic still makes sense to follow, but Google looks like like Google didn't have favicons in search results 2 years ago and things like that. People think, oh, it's out of date. And so I have to kind of create a video saying pretty much the same thing again, but with a new Google look. So that's been a lot of my focus, but there's also been, I'm so fascinated by digital Goliaths, as I refer to them, like big media brands with lots of different websites and lots of industries. And because I spend so much time tracking them, as a byproduct of that, I find little things that they do different than everyone else. I've been adding a lot of those to the course. So that's also kind of, a focus of version 3. So when that goes live, you're going to see not a ton, because there's, they're not that special. They're just humans. They don't do so many things different, but there are unique things they do I don't see on typical niche websites or e-commerce stores that I think people will find valuable.
Super pixels. Let's talk about
Yes.
super pixels. Is this a concept from the course, or is this something public?
It's both. So it was originally solely for the course, and I've shared it in the open, but I've shared not even 5% of what is inside the course. So the idea for super pixels is that it actually came from the video audits. So the video audits I was doing for the dog shelter and raising the money for them, and I looked at hundreds of websites. There were you look at so many websites in a short period of time, and the people behind them care about the website and they're actively working on it, because otherwise they wouldn't have ordered a video audit. So many of them look the same themes, same structure, same kind of headlines, same fake author. Obviously not everyone had fake author, but fake authors, and just not much care put into making it stand out. And that was a big thing for me. There was so much that just wasn't memorable and didn't stand out and wasn't personal. And I also noticed this in our students. So SEO Blueprint version 1 was, like I said, talked about link building and technical SEO and keyword research and site speed and things like, and again, I try to put my own twist and make it original. But I also noticed people be doing those things, but their websites, like they would have perfect on-site technical SEO. They'd be building some links, or they would have the great keywords to target, but I don't know, the websites just looked a bit boring, a bit impersonal, easy to forget, people not actively seeking them out in search results. And I thought, I always try and do that on my own websites. I always try and do something a bit weird, a bit quirky, a bit different to make them stand out. Like I have "what the F" written in the bottom of the footer on detailed, right? And people click on that link like crazy. That is one of the most clicked on links on my entire website. So I started documenting all of these things that websites do that make them different, that make them memorable, that make them stand out. And that became version 2 of the course, basically, just all of these unique things that I think don't copy someone else. It's just inspiration that you could do something similar.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm an absolute fan of those little things. And when I noticed this "what the fuck" link, I immediately clicked it and I reviewed.
Hey, I said "what the F." I don't.
Oh, sorry. We'll beep that out.
Yeah.
Where was I going with it? Yeah, you were explaining all the deal with your Space Invader mascot and how different companies use a mascot on Twitter. So that was very interesting, and it was cool to kind of randomly find it by clicking around your website. I also like how now like read more or show more buttons on your website, they produce a little sound. It's also a nice little touch. I think the common knowledge or best practice is that your websites should be silent. They shouldn't generate any unexpected sounds. And what you're doing is completely opposite of that. And when I stumbled upon it, I actually liked it. So it didn't irritate me. I actually like that you had this sound. And yeah, it's very cool to know that you have lots of examples, because I was able, I think I searched for super pixels on site detailed.com, and I found you were linking to a video which was unlisted on YouTube. So you cannot find it on YouTube, but you can find a link on Detailed. And it provided some very cool examples. So if you have more in the course, I'm very excited to dig there and look at what other people doing. Because yeah, I think that lately, especially in the SEO industry, everyone became so focused on kind of optimizing the content for robots, like same H2 tags like X, what is X, benefits of X. and they trimmed everything that's kind of quote unquote unnecessary from their pages. So it's not often that you come across a website which surprises you in some way. And I think we need more of that.
Yeah, so I'm such a big proponent of this, and I think I'm not trying to big up your ego here, but I think you probably see the internet in a similar way I do, because in Ahrefs I definitely see these things as well. So, for example, in Ahrefs, such a simple thing: every website on the internet pretty much has an author bio, right? Here's the person's name, face, and a little bio. The way Ahrefs does that and styles that is very different. I don't know if you've changed this recently, but you have much bigger photos of people. Really nice design box. Another thing is your sidebar. So in the sidebar of your blog post, you have how much organic traffic this page gets and how many links to this page. Like, it is such a simple, smart thing that it almost maybe isn't measurable. It's probably measurable in the sense that how many people clicked on this, right? You've got a little call to action there that says, do you want to know how much links you have to your own pages? Click here. You can probably measure that, but what you probably can't measure is people that have already clicked on it but still like to see it every time they come back to the blog and find it interesting. And that, like, little things like that, you have everywhere throughout Ahrefs. And you guys do, like, your book launch video. It's by far not a typical launch to do a book. So the things you do are like remarkable and personal. So yeah, so my idea is that I want to inspire people, because I don't know, do people see the internet in the same way like we do? Or are we just strange? Like a huge IPO public company couldn't put what the F in their footer, right? They wouldn't risk it. They think it's too personal, maybe unprofessional, but I can do that on a personal website. So I just put as many examples out there as I could and then let people relate them to themselves. So as a good example, there's a guy, I think his name is Michael Malkowitz. I'm probably saying his surname wrong. Sorry, Michael. In the footer of his website, he has two links, and one of them says, I hate this guy, and the other one says, I love this guy. And like, you can't tell me you're going to get to the footer of his website and not be super curious what is behind the link that says, I hate this guy, right? You have to click on it. So that was kind of inspiration for me putting what the F on the DDL website. So yeah, there's just so many things that can, for example, you sign up to someone's email list and confetti like goes up on the page, right? You're not going to throw confetti on the page always, every time they click on a link or every time then you open a new article. That would get really annoying. But if they've signed up to your email list, can you do something a little bit different? So there was one, and I also think they can be very functional. So I was reading Pinterest's earnings call recently, and what Pinterest have done. So a lot of people go to Pinterest because they want to see like beauty tips and skincare tips and DIY. And what Pinterest did is they added a filter so you can click on your skin tone. So you get to click your skin tone, and then they will show you only all of the beauty advice that matches your skin tone. So first of all, I think that's remarkable, right? It's something different. It's something most websites, when they have beauty tips or they're writing about beauty advice, they're never going to have a filter like that. And the reason that really stood out to me is because Pinterest said the usage of this thing is going crazy. It's doubled in the last year. Like, people are just loving this filter. So it's something remarkable, interesting, a little bit different, but it's also functional and makes their website better. It makes it more sticky. And that's kind of the perfect one for me. So yeah, I'm happy to give more examples, but it's just, the idea is just, can you do something the same as someone else in a quirky way? So can you have or just something a bit more personal, like a standard author box, or you make yours more interesting? A standard opt-in form, but when someone opt-ins to yours, then there's confetti on the page. Or one I really like that's really subtle is, hey, we answer emails from 9 to 5. We're in Germany, we answer emails from 9 to 5. Currently in Germany, it's 8:45, right? So a lot of websites will tell you when they answer emails. What they don't tell you is what time it is for them in the current time zone. It's just like such a little touch, such a little detail that I think makes it interesting and makes it more memorable.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm an absolute fan of those things.
Yeah.
Again, full disclosure, in terms of author boxes that you have complimented us on, The idea was stolen from, I think, Siege Media blog.
Yeah.
But we were always open about it. I think when we implemented it, I immediately tweeted that we were inspired by their design, but we also added our little twist because we added kind of contributors, and we were listing like other people who contributed to this author box. But then again, I think it's perfectly normal to take ideas from someone else, implement them on your own website, especially if you can like twist them in your own way. It's great. And as for the statistics box that we started displaying because we had Ahrefs data for our own pages and articles, we thought it would be cool to display it for our articles on our blog. And what I've noticed is that at least 2 other SEO tools in our industry have copied that for their blogs.
Oh, no.
No, I'm fine with that because kind of imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So I'm sure that Siege Media was flattered that we took their idea, but we were open about it and we had no problem saying, hey guys, you have a great author box. We like it so much that we implemented it for us. I would be even more flattered if the people who take ideas from us would also be kind of vocal about them. I think it also gives you more kind of integrity that you are honest where you took these ideas from. And I think it also kind of shows that you are confident with your own ability to come up with unique ideas because like you complimented us, we did quite a few unique things ourselves that no one was doing, which I think is perfectly fine. If we like something from someone else, we implement it. So we have a body of unique work that we do ourselves and we feel okay copying someone else that we think is cool. But if you don't have much unique stuff to show, then you probably wouldn't just say, oh, this thing is taken from here and this thing is taken from here and this thing is taken from here. It just doesn't make you look good.
Yeah, I remember I remember when you gave credit to Ross, I think it was from Siege in public when you guys talked about that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the right thing to do and I feel perfectly okay with that. Actually, one question that you also kind of provided me a segue into while you were talking about reading Pinterest earnings call or something like that, a quote from one of your articles. I've now read and listened in on hundreds of earning calls, particularly from digital-first brands. So the question is, how do you keep track of all that? Do you have did you ask your engineer to build a system that pings you whenever any of the companies you're interested in have an earnings call? Or do you have every Monday I would wake up and go through all the companies? How do you keep track of that and how do you allocate time for things like that?
Yes. Should I talk a bit about my daily flow a bit, or should I?
Of course.
Where that comes in. Okay. So my day, I've said a few times now, I'm a pretty strange person. So I have kind of a note on my computer that basically warns me that I must produce stuff more than I consume things. So it's very important for me. The first thing I do in a day is that I have to do something productive, whether that's working on a client audit, whether that's working on a module for Blueprint, whether I'm working on an article for Detailed. I don't want to mess around on Twitter. I don't want to, whatever it is, I play a game. I don't play games, but, it has to be that I create something productive and that I will dedicate at least 4 POMs. So POM is a Pomodoro. It's a 25-minute period of time. So before I do anything that might kind of look fun or not, it's busy, but maybe not productive, I make sure I do at least 3 or 4 Pomodoros of real serious writing or designing a website, whatever it may be, just something really productive and focused and real deep hard work, whatever it is. So that's a big thing. And then the next part of my day is that I have a lot of systems in place for tracking not only what changes websites are making, but news stories that might be relevant to me or detailed or that I can tweet about and I track literally hundreds and hundreds of sources. And then I have a lot of filtering in place for what can actually come into my world. So, for example, a really weird one, and this is actually one of my most effective ones. So I probably shouldn't share it, but the one thing, if any English article in the world on any big news website mentions the word millionaire in a headline, that comes to me. So a lot of them are not interesting. Like, I don't know, someone saying, oh, I married a millionaire and this is what he buys me every week, right? Some of them just have no interest in me and what I'm going on. But a lot of them will be on an obscure website saying, oh, I started this weird cooking blog and now I'm a millionaire. And it made its way on like a New Zealand local newspaper website, and it didn't get in any of the big tech website. And that's a really interesting story for me. And that's something I want to find and be interested in. So that's kind of my day is about 5 to 10 minutes of like, so I get about 80 headlines a day from the thousands of stories on the internet. I get about 80 headlines that come in from that pass through my filter basically. And then I spend 5 to 10 minutes going through those and opening any that are interesting. So on a normal day, there's probably about 6 or 7 of those that are worth reading more and diving into. It might be something like Facebook acquires this company, or publishers see traffic is down 30% this year from Google. That's the kind of thing I want to read about and open and learn more from. But for stocks specifically, I use a website called Seeking Alpha. And in Seeking Alpha, I have a premium account. You can follow all of the companies that are relevant to you. Right now, I follow 120-ish public companies that are digital first. So, for example, NerdWallet, they run TV ads and radio ads, but you don't walk down the street and go into a NerdWallet store, right? They're a brand, an internet brand. That's the kind of company I'm really interested in. So the thing, Seeking Alpha basically has a tab which is called earnings reports. So every day, not every day because they only come out every quarter. It's quiet for 2 months, and then over the space of a few weeks, it's just like earnings, just hundreds of them coming in. So Seeking Alpha is a good one for me. And one thing I like is that, or don't like rather, is that they're kind of slow in terms of getting the transcript for an earnings call. So I will know NerdWallet is having an earnings call right now, but I'm not going to get that transcript for 8 hours, and maybe I have to go sleep, or maybe I'm not going to see that until tomorrow. So I will open the live call in a new tab, and I do a lot of weird stuff. Like I'll record it in my browser, so I'm not listening to it. I'll record it in my browser, upload the audio file somewhere, extract all the text, and then just read it myself. So because Seeking Alpha is too slow for me, sometimes. So that's kind of my main source for news.
That is very specific and very valuable, and very cool. I think we can talk a little bit about the state of SEO. I wasn't sure if I want to dive too deep into this topic, because I think it would take like at least 2 months for this podcast episode to come out, and a lot of things would probably change till then. But what is your take on what is happening lately with those updates? So we discussed a couple things. You wrote about Reddit dominating the search results and parasite SEO that has been going on for quite a few years, where SEOs would exploit the authority of big websites, and now they're exploiting the authority of whatever forums Google is ranking. Then we discussed that you had a case of Retro Dodo website, which I emailed you about. You had it in your report. They were doing well. I checked the website and they look pretty legit. Nice, unique content, lots of unique images. You can see that there's a real team behind it. And yet, when I checked their traffic in Ahrefs, they were slapped recently. And I couldn't understand why they deserve it, but you said you had some ideas about that. So tell me like your thoughts on those things that are happening and where this is going in your opinion.
Yeah, so I think a big thing when we talk about the state of SEO, we kind of have to try and keep two minds, right? We've got the SEO and marketing mind where we think this is bad. Why is Reddit taking over all these search results? Why is it only big brands? And like, it just doesn't look fair. It doesn't look very diverse. But then also try and keep the other mindset that maybe this is what people want. Maybe, SEOs are a small part of who's using Google, and maybe just everyone on the internet actually only wants their product reviews from Forbes and GQ, and maybe they are showing a lot of signals that they're loving these sources. I think I know myself enough that I can have both of those hats on and see both points of view and very confidently say what is happening right now. And I won't talk about this too much because, like you said, in 2 months it might be a very different scenario by the time this goes live. But I almost think it has to be embarrassing for Google in some part. And the one that especially is embarrassing is what I'm seeing in health search results. Where like I can search for the most, like the worst ailments a human could get, like just really, really serious things that could like be bad for us, and Quora's up there ranking, and the top comment will literally be, I do voodoo, I can help you with black magic, here's my WhatsApp phone number, get in touch. Like that is the thing Google is sending around, and that's just, I don't know, I don't think it gets much worse than that for a search result that should be so serious and so kind of protected. The thing that I went kind of a bit viral for was showing that, I think everyone knows now, is that Reddit, maybe this has changed 2 months when this goes live, but Reddit is suddenly dominating search results, right? And they've taken a ton of market share from like every kind of niche out there. Reddit went from, 100, 200 million visitors a month from Google to like 600, 700 million, just really 2-3x their search traffic. And just a lot of that now, because Reddit is community driven and user generated content, is being overrun with spam. So people are just spamming all over Reddit, and you'll click on a thread and it's just like removed by moderator. Oh, I use this product, and then like there's a link in there, and the link is like, the link was put in last week, but the question about the best product was asked 7 months ago. Like it's just really spammed, really overrun. So yeah, Google is just been giving so much attention to Reddit, to Quora, to Pinterest, just to all of these kind of user generated brands. They've got the new sub feature now with discussions of forums. I think, so I said this to someone else the other day, I think Google's reputation is at the absolute lowest it has probably been, like that I can recall, at least from marketers, right? At least from SEOs that I have seen. But it is, and they've made people so depressed about building content sites and niche sites. But I think they could change that around so easily. Like if they do something like they remove the discussions of forum sub feature, or Forbes stops ranking for how to vacuum, dog hair, and like, or CNET currently on the first page for best multivitamins, right? If those kind of things stop being the case, and Google give people a sign of like, oh, there is a chance we are still actively working to change these things, then I think the sentiment towards Google can turn around a lot. But right now, I think, it's pretty embarrassing. It's pretty bad. Reddit is suddenly like the number one site on the internet. And I just think the way people think about Google and all the court documents and everything that's coming out is probably at an all-time low at the moment.
So what about RetroDodo? You discussed like what's happening with Reddit, but what's happening with content websites? A lot of people in the SEO industry, the SEO industry is obviously broken down into a few kind of sub niches, and affiliate marketing is one of them, and it's pretty big. And people want to create content websites with a lot of affiliate links and basically get paid for recommending products. I imagine RetroDodo had this kind of monetization strategy. I didn't dig into it too much, but it seems like so. And in my opinion, and I don't look into this as much as you do, but in my opinion, it seems that any website which sole purpose of existence is affiliate links is at a threat, no matter the quality of it, unless it's a big trusted brand like those you discuss in your reports. If it's a kind of no-name website that doesn't belong to any established companies, I think it's at a threat.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a lot of theories, right, about why all of these specifically niche content websites are being taken down. Not only are they being replaced by Reddit and Quora, but there's like SaaS like if you have an e-commerce store client, you're looking like a pretty good SEO right now, because a lot of them are seeing their blog articles suddenly ranking well. A random store selling pet products has a random article they didn't put that much focus on in terms of how to vacuum your pet hair, or why is my dog like scratching his leg, or whatever it may be, and suddenly ranking really, really well. Whereas the website that only talks about dogs and blogs about dogs isn't ranking so well anymore. I think there's definitely been some commonalities, maybe not an actual focus of Google, but definitely some commonalities in terms of primarily writes like keyword focused content, gets most of their traffic from SEO, maybe doesn't have that many brand searches every month compared to someone like GQ and Marie Claire and Cosmopolitan, like people not actively searching for that website name. Probably a lot of once-off website visitors. Someone said this, so Retro Dodo is not the only one, of course. There's Travel Lemming, there's House Fresh, there's That Fit Friend. And I think a good piece of feedback someone said on House Fresh was that you're looking for the best air purifier. That's it. You don't sign up to an email list every month talking about like the latest best air purifiers, right? You don't really need to keep updated on the industry. You get the product you want. You don't need to remember the brand. So that's tough. And if Google do have some kind of thing, they're looking at that from Chrome data or a Pogo sticking on whatever it may be from search results, that's really tough right now for a lot of sites. So I think with Retro Dodo, I think they do so many things right. So they're a pretty unique brand, right? They look different. They've got a nice logo, a nice design, looks like real people behind the website. They're passionate about the topic. They've published a book on the topic, the history of retro gaming. And they do so many things right. I think they've probably been caught up in whatever is looking at very SEO focused. Most of the traffic comes from Google, maybe not a ton of brand searches. I think there's probably some aspect of it where you can put any website in front of an SEO and say, oh, they didn't get to the point, or the pages load slowly, or their internal linking could be better. I'm pretty sure you could fix all of those and still they would still be struggling right now. It's just kind of what's happening across the board. So you mentioned it to me in an email, and very quickly I replied to you with a screenshot showing, hey, I've got this list of rankings that they lost. So I have basically lots of keyword clusters, lots of industries that I look at. So I look at who's ranking for antivirus software, who's ranking for the best VPNs, who's ranking for best hotels, like just so many different niches. I want to see who's winning. And what I always do when someone says, hey, Google really destroyed my website, what I always do is take some of their keywords that, from Ahrefs, I'll export the keywords that they've lost, and then I'll start tracking those over time. Do they come back in the rankings, or who's if you've lost rankings, someone else has taken them, right? They might be new Google SERP features, so it only goes to Google, but for the most part, there's a different website in that search result. So for Retro Dodo specifically, and for a lot of these other niche sites, it's again, Reddit, Quora, Amazon, Pinterest. There's also a lot of big brands. So Retro Dodo is a very niche aspect of gaming. What they might be being outranked by is IGN, right? Huge gaming website. Or GameSpot, again, huge game. There used to be physical magazines and things like that. And then, so that's a big part of it. And then also a lot of what I've seen, so it might be other website types. It might be like SaaS companies who've written about handheld gaming, but a lot of it is also more niche websites. So for example, let's just say Retro Dodo wrote about Pokemon, like they had an article on the best Pokemon games. What is ranking now instead is a Pokemon specific website, like that only talks about Pokemon and not all aspects of retro gaming. So there's really a mix, but for every kind of site I look at, like I said, That Fit Friend, Travel Lemming, and lots of everyone who's complained or said that their traffic is lost. And of course it sucks. I don't like seeing people say they've had to let staff go and things like that. It's either user generated content, different website types, huge brands, or just way more niche than they were. So if you've lost traffic for the best weightlifting shoes, it might just be a website that only talks about weightlifting shoes and nothing else. That's now in the search results.
To be honest, I'm in the similar mindset, and we had kind of same thing happen to Ahrefs blog, where after some Google update, we lost maybe, 30% of our search traffic and something. But when we started looking, as you say, into the keywords where we lost traffic and who ranks instead of us, we were like, okay, that's actually fair, because those websites seem to be kind of better positioned to talk about those subjects than we are. Mm-hmm. So we're like, yeah, probably Google was giving us a bit more traffic on the topics that we don't necessarily deserve, and they kind of corrected that towards some other websites. So yeah, we weren't even very upset at that. And I guess it might be relevant to talk about your other project, Gaps, where you explore gaps in the market. So what are your kind of goals, and where do you want to take this project, and why it exists?
So yeah, so Gaps originally existed. It was originally called VIP Niche Ideas. Again, keep in mind when I started Viberchill, I'm a teenager, right? So I think anything with the word VIP in it is cool, and oh, people want to be on a VIP email list, right? And I wouldn't do something like that today, but it was called VIP Niche Ideas. And one of the first things I ever talked about was, do you remember Viral Nova back in the day? Just like
Yeah,
taking
of
over
course.
Facebook with like,
Yeah,
oh, you won't
I
believe
tried
what
to replicate that based on your article.
yeah. So it'd be like, you won't believe what happened next. And Facebook just everyone clicking on the links, like millions, they were getting like 100 million people a month or something crazy from Facebook. And I documented this in style. And I even interviewed the guy, Scott DeLong. I interviewed him for Viberchill. Like I just got really into this topic. And like 6 months, a year later, I had a few people reaching out like, hey, I made like $1 million. I made a few $1 million because of you. I only got into this niche. And I was like, okay, I got to do more of this. So I kept sharing these kind of ideas. But again, I thought I was alienating some of my audience who were just coming for SEO and didn't want to get sidetracked with a new shiny thing, right? So it was, so that's why I went all in on Detailed. And Detailed, so about 18 months ago, I started really seriously tracking because I knew I wanted to do an update to the 16 companies dominating Google. I really started tracking those companies a lot more closely, who they were buying, which websites they were merging, which websites they were selling, which websites they stopped updating. And that's when I started creating all these news sources that I've told you about. Like if there's an article, someone writes an article about .-Meredith, that will get through my filter, and then I will see that. And that's interesting to me. And then what I've also found is that, and it seemed to be the case, that I was finding stories before other people. So even though I had just started this idea, I was finding stories before DigiDay or Adweek or Press Gazette, who normally talk about these things before I ever got involved in these spaces. And what's also happened, and again, I have literally hundreds and hundreds of sources that I've manually put in, and then they get filtered. And what I keep finding is really interesting success stories and case studies. Like, for example, I think that Pinterest thing is interesting where they added this new filter for your skin type and the people are loving it, sticking around more. I have nowhere to share those kind of ideas and those concepts and those things that I keep finding that are really like, it just doesn't fit into SEO or Detailed, and I don't want to go too off topic. So I realized probably 12 months ago, I really have to, I want to put these somewhere else. I want to share these ideas, these things I'm coming across, these income reports, these earnings that aren't SEO related, but I still find them super interesting. And that's kind of what's coming soon with Gaps. So we've been working on this for more than half a year now. I haven't really been doing anything. Like I said, I've learned to kind of delegate. So other people have been building that up in the background. As we're recording this, it looks terrible. It's not finished. There's nothing to tweet about or share or anything like that. But by the time this goes live, it's probably looking a lot different. So I have a lot of big competition. I have, like I said, Adweek, Bloomberg, Morning Brew, these, what is the other one? Trends or something like that, which HubSpot own now. Like lots of different big brands, Zoom Info, PitchBook, Crunchbase from TechCrunch, which makes like millions of dollars with their database. So there's a lot of competition, but I think that I can find stories and news and share it in a way that other people are not doing. And I'm making a pretty big bet on that. So I hope I can make that happen.
How do you even get traffic to this kind of content, since it's not SEO optimized and you cannot rank in Google for those things? And every social network these days, they don't really like you to post links to take people away. So it seems that the only way to grow those kinds of projects, those kinds of websites to a substantial amount of visitors is by generating audience. So little by little, as you get 50 clicks from Twitter, 70 clicks from Facebook, or like you promote it in Details newsletter once in a while, or like we talk about it on a podcast like this, little by little people would trickle in. And if you won't kind of convert them into your audience, if you won't get them to your email list to expect the new updates from you, I think you're kind of missing the opportunity. So kind of you're like the best bet to grow this kind of project is to retain an insane amount of visitors. Is this how you look at it?
So the way I'm approaching the project is that SEO could bring us easily a few 100,000 visitors a month. And I have keywords that we're going to be targeting, but we will be totally fine, or at least this is what I tell myself, we will be totally fine if Google doesn't send us anyone. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking, where SEO can be huge for us, eventually result in generating a lot of revenue. But if it doesn't take off, I'm not reliant on it. Newsletter is going to be big. Newsletters in the space are huge, like Morning Brew, right? Sold for $80 million. They've got, a few million people on their newsletter. Business Insider, absolutely huge. CNBC, Make It. You can tell I've been researching the market quite a bit to see who else is putting out this content. But so Gaps is probably the worst SEO case study on the internet right now. I think it gets like 30, 40 clicks a day from Google or something like that. But one page that gets all of our traffic is Coffee Meets Bagel Revenue. Coffee Meets Bagel is like a dating app. And we get, it's not very popular. It's not like Tinder or Hinge. It's not so popular like those, but I get decent traffic to that. So there's a lot of search volume for revenue of companies. Any specific, people Google every month for sure, Ahrefs revenue. Like people want to know how much money you guys are making, right? And there's people that get traffic to that. So think of how many startups there are, right? There's thousands, tens of thousands in the English speaking world that people care about and want to know their revenue of. So that's one angle. Another angle is success stories. So for example, people want to search for like successful finance blogs. There's not huge search traffic there, but there's search traffic and it's targeted, and that's the kind of thing I want to serve. So we've done the research, and there's definitely potential for, like I said, a few 100,000 if Google stays the way it is. Maybe Google are gonna put SGE on everything, and I'm so far down the search results that I don't get many clicks. But yeah, my optimistic side is going for a few 100,000 visitors from search, and my pessimistic side says we'll get nothing from Google, but we'll still do well with everything else.
I feel like I'm talking to a white hole of information. You just keep giving more and more unique information that I haven't come across anywhere else. It's like very cool, very insightful. And I guess my question is, a ton of people are learning from you. Like it feels like when you publish your article in detailed and tweet about it, the whole SEO industry stops and reads whatever Glen has to say. But I wonder, who are the people you look up to, and who are the people that when they do something, when they publish something, you stop and you kind of consume and learn from them?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So as you know, I haven't done podcast interviews for years, right? You emailed me. I actually looked back at the email. You said, please say yes. Like, will you do the podcast? Please say yes. So I was like, okay, I have. And then I said, as long as it's not this month. And you was like, no, it's May. And May was like months away. So I'm like, it's never, in my head, it's never going to be May, right? We're never going to get to the point where we're really recording this podcast. So, okay, fine. Okay, let's do it in May. Of course, we're here now. So, okay, I agreed to do the podcast. And then a crazy thing happened last week. There is one guy I really love to follow. His name is Brian Morrissey. He runs a newsletter called The Rebooting, and he talks about what I talk about. So kind of the business of media companies. So the websites they're behind, how do they generate revenue? Is it affiliate revenue and things like that? And he has a show, and on his show, he talks to like people at Business Insider, people at the New York Times, people, just big publications that most people would know. And on Friday, on Wednesday, last week, he said, hey, do you want to come on my podcast on Friday? Like, I've been following this guy's newsletter for 2 years. He's never hinted at something like this. And then he's like, do you want to come on my podcast? I was like, okay. So that's the kind of a good warm up actually for this one. Cause like I said, I don't do podcasts. And so to be asked, and the coincidence of it was pretty funny that I'm going to come on this show and then talk with him. So, and also the CEOs of these companies, so like Neil Vogel at Meredith, if I'm not mistaken, he led, so Meredith used to be about.com. And if I'm not mistaken, it was his idea to turn about.com into like The Balance and LifeWire and all these other websites. And he just created this SEO like powerhouse. And I find him like fascinating how he had that idea, how he came up with that. So those are the kind of people that interest me. People creating media companies are talking about media companies.
So would it be fair to say that what's on your mind right now is media companies, how to build them, how to make them successful? what are they doing to grow, what mistakes they're making, etc.?
Yeah, so without a doubt, still my number one thing is SEO. Like I do that, like, every day I'm involved, helping people, researching, running tools, looking at title tag changes or redirects. Like that has been my thing, like my whole life, basically. More than half my life I've been doing SEO. So that's always my thing. That's going to keep going. But yeah, as far as what I find, because media companies kind of relate back to SEO, right? They have all these websites. Are they linking them together? Are they closing them down? Are they merging them? It all kind of interlinks with my interests. So yeah, it's definitely my focus.
Like I'm also very interested in creating and running media company. And a couple years ago, I visited SaaS Talk in Dublin. And it seemed that the main topic of the conversation was media companies. People were talking about HubSpot acquiring The Hustle. People were talking about HubSpot also building out their kind of podcast empire, where they would have like a network of podcasts. Like you said, Morning Brew got acquired for an insane amount of money. And like, I might be completely wrong with that, but one of the main issues I'm seeing with building a successful media company, media empire, is finding people, kind of journalists, who can dig interesting information and present it in an interesting form to people. Like, what is your advice? Where do you look for these people? Because it's definitely not like if you post like I'm looking for a content writer or copywriter or content marketing specialist. If you post that on Upwork or anywhere else, I don't think the kinds of people who would reply to this ad are the kind of people you need to build a successful media company.
Yeah, I think there's a good quote. It was by Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar or something like that, and it was like, it wasn't. Someone asked him, how do you teach your staff to be nice to customers, right? He's like, I don't teach people to be nice. I just hire nice people. So for me, it's like I think a good example was maybe Josh working with Ahrefs. Like he was already writing about SEO, right? He was already finding these things fascinating. You didn't have to you didn't have to say to him, hey, let's do you want to start writing about SEO? And these are the kind of websites you have to read. Like I'm guessing that wasn't your process with him, right? He cares about this already. So for me, it's I want to find people who are already doing that stuff. And I think about the media space. Look, I'm winging it, right? I see a lot of people copy my things on various websites at times. Of course, it's fine, but I have no idea what I'm doing. So when I see someone copy something I'm doing, I'm thinking, well, look, I'm learning as I go. So if I'm making a mistake, you're making one as well. So in my head, and this might be totally wrong, I think I have the advantage that these big brands that I'm competing against have so many people and so many writers that, I don't know, we can be a lot more lean and agile and risky, and they have people kind of set on covering certain topics in a certain way. And yeah, for me to find people is, and I've tried this. I hired, or I gave a chance to about 25, 30 people. I said, here's how I want, and just like a very small writing job, like here's how I want to talk about companies. Here's a company I wanted you to talk about. Can you write about them in the same way? And you could instantly see who's writing about it just to hit a word count and who actually checked out the company, found something interesting about them. And yeah, there's out of those 25, 30 people, there were a couple, particularly one girl, she was incredible, just amazing. And actually two women were the greatest writers out of those 25. And yeah, it's just finding people who can adapt, but also would have done it, even if you didn't give them a job, they'd be writing about these kind of things already.
I would love to dig more into those kinds of things and like how to train people and what kind of, I don't know, SOPs or processes you can give them, like for things to look for, how to analyze companies, and like what are the kind of building blocks of your content. But unfortunately, we're out of time. So all I can do is thank you. This has been incredible. And I'm very grateful that you finally agreed for this interview. It hasn't been easy to get you on, but it has been amazing. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It's good for me to, I know it's only a podcast, but be a bit more social on the internet. So yeah, I really appreciate you asking me, and yeah, some great questions. So thank you for that as well.